Before we continue with tonight's story, please remember to subscribe and hit that like button. Don't forget to check in with a comment down below. The sky over New York that afternoon, the sun hanging low on the horizon, cast a fiery orange glow that shimmered off the glass of the skyscrapers. To most, it was just a weary Tuesday. But for Claire, today was everything. 5 years, 60 months, 1,825 days. She had lived her life as the wife of Ethan, the man she considered her final harbor. Sitting in the back of the summoned Uber, Claire smoothed down her crimson, knee-length dress for the 10th time. She checked the small velvet box in her purse, ensuring it hadn't fallen out. Inside the box was a limited edition watch Ethan had wanted for a long time. Claire smiled to herself, imagining the surprise on her husband's face. Ethan was a stoic, work-obsessed man, but Claire knew that behind his cool demeanor, he loved her deeply. At least, that's what she had believed until now. "Driver, you can stop in front of that cafe there," Claire said softly, pointing to a small, industrial chic cafe in a part of the city she rarely visited. Claire stepped out of the car, her heart fluttering. Her reason for being here was simple. She wanted to pick Ethan up from his office for a romantic dinner she had booked at a high-end restaurant. But on the way to his office, passing through this area, something very familiar caught her eye. A black Lincoln Navigator with the license plate ETH 1985 was parked neatly in the corner of the fairly quiet cafe parking lot. "That's Ethan's car," she thought to herself. "What's he doing here? Didn't he say he had an important client meeting at the headquarters?" Curiosity began to prick at her, but Claire quickly shook off the negative thoughts. Perhaps Ethan was meeting a client off-site, or maybe he was ordering something special to surprise her. The thought made Claire chuckle. "Two people trying to surprise each other," she murmured. She approached the car. The area was quite deserted, with only a few other cars parked far away. Claire rummaged through her purse and found the spare key to Ethan's car, an old habit she'd developed after he complained about frequently misplacing his own. Instead of knocking on the window or calling him, a playful idea sparked. What if she made the surprise even more fun? She would sneak into the car, hide in the back seat, and then, when Ethan got in and started the engine, she would pop up and yell, "Happy anniversary!" Very slowly, with a careful motion, Claire pressed the unlock button. There was a faint click, but it was barely audible over the sound of traffic on the road. She opened the back door, just a crack, and slipped inside. The interior was filled with the scent of sandalwood, Ethan's favorite cologne. It was a scent that always calmed her, but it was mixed with another, fainter fragrance. A sweet, floral scent, like a woman's perfume. Claire frowned for a moment. "Is it a new car air freshener?" she tried to reason. She pulled a few of Ethan's work blazers that were lying on the back seat over her body. She crouched on the floor directly behind the driver's seat, pulling the pile of jackets and a few small cushions over herself. In this position, anyone getting into the car wouldn't see her unless they deliberately checked under the seats. Minutes passed. The car grew hot and stuffy, but Claire didn't move. Her heart pounded with a childlike excitement. She imagined Ethan's usually expressionless face morphing into surprise, then breaking into a wide smile. Claire had already prepared the sweet words to start their romantic evening. But after 10 minutes, footsteps approached. Not one person, but two. Claire held her breath. She heard the light laugh of a woman, a voice she knew all too well, a laugh she often heard when they went for lunch or shopping together. "Jessica!" Claire froze. "Why is Jessica here with Ethan?" The front doors opened. The car rocked as two people got in. Ethan sat in the driver's seat, and the woman. It was indeed Claire's best friend, Jessica, who sat in the passenger seat. "Ugh, it's so hot today." Jessica's voice was full of flirtatious charm, completely different from her professional tone at work. Claire felt a tightness in her chest. She still tried to think positively. Maybe they had just finished a meeting. But why would Jessica need to be in Ethan's car? Didn't Jessica drive her own car to work? "Just a second, babe. I'll turn on the AC right now," Ethan replied. That one word, babe, struck Claire like a hammer shattering glass. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Her whole body went cold, colder than the air-conditioned air that began to fill the car. Her hand, clutching the gift box, trembled violently. Under the dark pile of jackets, Claire squeezed her eyes shut, hoping she was dreaming. "What time is it? Won't your saintly wife get suspicious?" Jessica asked in a mocking tone, emphasizing the word saint in a way that made Claire's stomach turn. Ethan chuckled lowly. It was a laugh Claire had never heard before, a cynical, secretive sound. "Claire won't suspect a thing. She's probably busy getting all dolled up for that boring anniversary celebration right now. She's so naive she can't see what's right in front of her." Claire felt her heart stop. The world she had built over 5 years shattered with that single sentence from her husband. The surprise she had planned had turned into her worst nightmare. There she was, under a pile of jackets, a silent witness to the most brutal betrayal, unable to move. The darkness under the pile of jackets now felt suffocating, as if all the oxygen inside the SUV had been sucked out by the betrayal that had just unfolded. Claire curled herself into the smallest ball possible, hugging her knees so tightly her joints ached. She could feel a cold bead of sweat trickle down her temple, smudging the makeup she had so lovingly applied all afternoon. Outside, the soft purr of the car engine started. It was the signal that Ethan had started the car. But to Claire, it sounded like the growl of a predator ready to devour her. In the front seat, just inches from where she was hiding, Jessica let out a long sigh and leaned back in her chair. Claire could smell the black opium perfume on her friend, the same scent she had complimented on a previous outing. "So, are we really doing this tonight, Ethan?" Jessica asked. Her voice was no longer flirtatious, but cold and calculating. "The sooner, the better, Jess," Ethan replied as he turned the steering wheel. The car began to slowly exit the cafe parking lot. "I'm sick of pretending to be the perfect husband every time I go home. Do you know how hard it is to keep a straight face whenever she shows those childish displays of affection?" Claire bit her lip so hard she could taste blood. Ethan's words were daggers carving out her heart. The man for whom she made breakfast every morning, the husband she waited for with a smile every night, considered her affection a disgusting burden. "Well, your acting was incredible," Jessica giggled. The sound that once seemed warm to Claire's ears now sounded like a knife scraping across a glass plate. "When you gave her that pearl necklace for her birthday last month, I almost believed you really loved her. That was just an investment, Jess. A little capital to keep her quiet and stop her from asking why I was working late so often," Ethan snorted. "Besides, those pearls were bought with money from our joint account. Most of that account is from project bonuses under my name. She's just a clueless keeper of the keys." The car was now on the road. Claire could feel the slight sway as it changed lanes. Hiding, Claire felt like a living corpse. She wanted to scream, to jump out and grab Jessica by the hair, to slap Ethan's face until he came to his senses. But something stronger than rage held her down. A terrible curiosity. What they were talking about was something more than a simple affair. "So, what's the plan for the appointment tonight?" Jessica asked again. "You said she booked a table at the Celestial Lounge. Are you really going to go there and dance with her? When we've prepared everything?" "Of course I have to go. It will be my perfect alibi," Ethan answered in a terrifyingly calm tone. "I'll meet her, kiss her forehead like I always do, and let her feel like the happiest woman in the world, one last time. Then, I'll make an excuse about an urgent work matter and get out of there. That's when our plan begins." Claire closed her eyes. The tears she had been holding back finally fell, soaking the jacket she was using to hide. One last time. What did that mean? "All the documents in my briefcase are in order," Ethan continued. "Power of attorney for asset transfer, the deed to the land in the Hamptons, and a few deposit certificates in her parents' names. I just need to get her signature on a few insurance papers I've slipped in among the anniversary documents tonight. She trusts me so much. She won't even read the fine print at the bottom." Jessica spoke in a very satisfied voice. "And once all those assets are transferred, are you just going to let her live in poverty?" Ethan was silent for a moment. That silence felt heavier than any words he had spoken. Claire held her breath. Her ears were ringing, waiting for the answer that would define the rest of her life. "Poverty isn't enough, Jess," Ethan finally said in a low voice filled with a hatred Claire couldn't comprehend. "Claire is stubborn. If she finds out I betrayed her, she'll bring her father's lawyers and hunt me to the ends of the earth. We have to make sure she never gets the chance to sue us or tell anyone." That's why I've arranged for that accident on her way home tonight. Claire's world completely collapsed. She wasn't just being emotionally betrayed, nor was she just being financially robbed. She was now in a car with the man who was planning her death. The friend she considered a sister and the husband she thought was her soul's sanctuary were discussing how to eliminate her from this world on their wedding anniversary. Claire gripped the phone in her purse until her knuckles turned white. She realized one thing: she couldn't get out now. If she revealed herself in the middle of this increasingly deserted road, she wouldn't have the strength to face both of them. She had to remain this dark passenger. She had to hear every single detail of their plan. "You're truly cruel, Ethan," Jessica murmured, but her tone held not fear, but a twisted admiration. "That's why I chose you. We need each other, Jess. And once Claire is gone, there will be no one left to stop us from having everything we deserve," Ethan replied coldly. The car continued to drive, carrying Claire into a dark reality she had never imagined. Under the pile of jackets, Claire slowly turned on her phone's recording mode. If tonight was her last night, she swore she would not go down without a fight. The sound of the car on the asphalt felt like the grains of sand in an hourglass, counting down the rest of her life. Behind the pile of jackets, which now felt like a fabric coffin, Claire held her phone tightly to her chest, ensuring the microphone could pick up every vibration of sound from the front seat. She breathed very shallowly through her mouth so her gasps wouldn't arouse suspicion. "That accident. You've confirmed the location, right?" Jessica broke the silence that had settled for a few minutes after an ironically romantic song played on the radio. It sounded like she was opening her makeup mirror. The small click of a compact powder case could be heard. Ethan cleared his throat. The sound that once seemed authoritative to Claire now sounded like a monster's growl. "Mile marker 26 on the Long Island Expressway. There's a section of roadwork there that's still unfinished. There's hardly any lighting, and the road barriers are just temporary concrete blocks. I've already hired someone to drive an old truck with faulty brakes. He knows the license plate of the car Claire uses when she drives alone, but she's not driving alone tonight. You're picking her up from the restaurant, right?" Jessica asked, confused. "That's the key part," Ethan explained in a terrifyingly calm tone, as if presenting a marketing strategy at the office. "After dinner, I'll pretend to get an urgent call from work. Then I'll tell her to go home first in a taxi or a replacement car I've arranged. I sent her car to the shop this morning under the pretext of an oil change. She won't suspect anything if I tell her the other car is safer." Claire closed her eyes. That's right. This morning Ethan had been unusually insistent that her car needed to go to the shop. He even kissed her forehead and said, "We can't have my beloved wife getting stranded on the road." Now Claire knew it wasn't a gesture of care, but preparation for an execution. "What about those documents? Are you sure she'll sign them without reading?" Jessica asked again. "Claire is the type who sees the world through rose-colored glasses," Ethan snorted cynically. "I'll slip those asset transfer documents between papers for an education insurance policy for our future child, or a love pledge, things she's always dreamed of, under the dim lights of a romantic restaurant, after a bit of wine. She'll be crying tears of joy and sign anything I put in front of her. She's always believed I'm her protector." Hearing the words future child, Claire's heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. They had planned to start trying to conceive next month. The dreams Claire had built up with hope were nothing but bait Ethan used to lure her into a death trap. "You're a real devil, Ethan. You're giving me chills," Jessica laughed lightly. Her words expressed fear, but her tone was filled with excitement. "But make sure my share is secure. The Singapore apartment and her father's company stock need to be transferred as soon as the probate period is over. I don't want to wait too long." "Of course, Jess. You were the one behind the internal audit that framed her father back in the day. Without you, I would never have been able to gain complete control in this company. We're a perfect team. Claire is just a pitiful obstacle we need to remove to enjoy the fruits of our labor." Claire bit her own hand to stifle a scream. Her father, so his health deteriorating after being accused of corruption at the company a year ago, was their doing. Her father had passed away in a state of depression, his honor tarnished, and it was all a conspiracy cooked up by her husband and her friend. The deep sorrow in Claire's heart slowly turned into a burning flame of rage. The fear that had paralyzed her now transformed into a sharp instinct for survival. She no longer just wanted to survive. She wanted to make those two pay for every tear her father shed, for every wound on her heart. "Oh, and one more thing," Ethan added, his voice turning cold. "After it happens, you need to stay away from me for a few weeks. I have to play the role of the distraught husband who lost his beloved wife on their anniversary. The media will love that kind of drama. We'll be the center of attention, and I need to look like the most pitiful victim in the world. I know, Ethan. I'll act well. I'll be the first one to hug her at the funeral. Or rather, I'll have to hug her portrait if the body isn't intact," Jessica retorted in a terribly cruel, joking tone. The car suddenly slowed down. Claire felt her heart pound. Had they arrived already? Was she going to be discovered? "Why are we stopping?" Jessica asked. "Red light. And I need to reply to Claire. She sent a message an hour ago, asking if I was on my way to the restaurant." Ethan chuckled. Claire remembered sending that message before she decided to get into this car. Through a gap in the jackets, Claire could steal a glance at the light from Ethan's phone, faintly reflecting in the rearview mirror. She imagined the same fingers that often stroked her hair, now typing a deadly lie. "I'll reply. Just a moment, honey. Finishing up some work. Love you." Ethan read the message in a mocking tone before sending it. Down below, on the dark car floor, Claire felt a vibration in her purse. Her phone had received the message. "Love you." The words that were once her strength were now a deadly poison. Claire took a deep breath. She knew she didn't have much time. The car would soon arrive at the restaurant or their next destination. She had to make a choice. Either stay hidden until Ethan got out, or find a way to escape before the accident plan truly began. But as she fumbled in her purse, her hand touched something hard. The spare key, a heavy perfume bottle, and a small folding box cutter she usually used to open packages at work. Claire knew she didn't have the physical strength to fight, but she had this recording. She had the truth, and most importantly, she still had the element of surprise. Ethan and Jessica had no idea that their prey was sitting right behind them, listening to every ugly plan they concocted. "Go, Ethan. It's a green light," Jessica said. The car glided forward again. Claire prepared herself. A new act of her life was beginning now, not as a weak wife, but as an angel of death to those who had destroyed her life. The SUV continued through the beginning of New York's rush hour traffic. In the back seat, Claire felt like she was in the dark, cold belly of a whale. Every word Ethan and Jessica uttered felt like another nail being hammered into her coffin. But that pain had now hardened into resolve. She would not die here. Not today. Not at their hands. "Did you contact that guy and confirm the truck is ready?" Jessica's voice cut through a few minutes of silence after the ironic love song on the radio ended. "I did," Ethan replied curtly. "He's waiting at the service station at mile marker 24. As soon as I give the signal that Claire is on the highway in the replacement car, he'll move. It'll all look like a normal chain reaction accident caused by brake failure. There will be no trace of sabotage on Claire's car. Technically, the car she'll be driving has been tweaked a bit this afternoon to have a sudden mechanical failure." Claire shivered. Her thoughts drifted to Ethan's briefcase. It was on the back seat, right next to the pile of jackets where she was hiding. If she could get her hands on those documents, the asset transfer forms and evidence of stock manipulation, she could not only survive but completely ruin Ethan legally and financially. With a courage born of desperation, Claire began to move her hand. Very slowly. It felt like it took hours to move an inch. She had to ensure the fabric of the jackets covering her didn't rustle too loudly. Luckily, Ethan had the music on at a medium volume, which helped cover any small sounds. Her hand fumbled to the side, searching for the leather surface of Ethan's briefcase. "Found it!" Claire felt the zipper of the bag. She pulled it, bit by bit, ever so slightly. Zip! The sound was deafening to her ears. But Ethan and Jessica were too busy laughing and talking about their post-inheritance trip to the Maldives. "I want a hotel with a direct connection to the ocean, Ethan. We have to celebrate this freedom in luxury," Jessica said in a cooing voice. "Anything for you. Once we liquidate that inheritance, the Maldives will be pocket change. We could buy property there if you want," Ethan replied arrogantly. Claire managed to open the bag enough to slip her hand inside. She fumbled through a stack of papers. Thanks to the faint light from the street lamps penetrating the car's tinted windows, She could see a blue file. On it was written, Sterling Vance Holdings, Inheritance Rights and Asset Transfer, her father's company. Claire's heart pounded. She took out her phone again. With trembling hands, she turned on the phone's flash to its dimmest setting, covering the light with her fingers so it wouldn't reflect forward, and began to photograph the documents, page by page. Each press of the shutter felt like another nail in Ethan's career coffin. But suddenly, the car screeched to a halt. "Damn it! Crazy biker!" Ethan yelled as he swerved to avoid a motorcycle that had cut him off. Claire's body was thrown to the side, hitting the car door with a rather loud thud. Her phone slipped from her hand and rolled under the front seat. "What was that noise?" Ethan asked, his eyes immediately darting to the rearview mirror. Claire froze. She held her breath until her chest burned. She couldn't move an inch from her cramped position on the car floor. "Probably just your stuff in the back shifting," Jessica said, glancing back briefly. All she saw was a messy pile of jackets. Ethan still looked at the rearview mirror suspiciously. "It sounds like someone is back there. You're just on edge because of this big plan." "Ethan," Jessica soothed, stroking his arm. "Focus on driving. We're almost at the restaurant. You need to put on your most loving husband face, you know?" Ethan let out a long sigh and adjusted his shirt collar in the mirror. "You're right. Once this dinner is over, it'll all be done." The car started moving again. Claire slowly crawled to retrieve her dropped phone. As she fumbled under the driver's seat, her hand touched something cold and metallic. It wasn't her phone. She carefully pulled the object out. It was a small pill bottle with part of the label torn off. Claire squinted to read the remaining letters. Azepam, a high-dose sedative, Claire realized. Ethan wasn't just relying on the truck accident. If the accident failed or if Claire became suspicious, Ethan was prepared to incapacitate her in the car with this drug. This man was a true monster who had calculated every possibility. Claire put the pill bottle in her purse as additional evidence. She now had the voice recording, the photos of the documents, and evidence of a poisoning or drugging attempt. "I have to get out of here before we reach the restaurant," Claire thought. She knew if they arrived and Ethan acted like the gentlemanly husband he always was, opening the door for her, she would be discovered immediately. But jumping out of a moving car was suicide. She had to wait for the car to slow down at the next traffic light, or when Ethan stopped at the lobby. "Look, there's the restaurant," Jessica said, pointing to a skyscraper with beautiful lights at the top. "Drop me off at the side lobby. I'll go in through the staff entrance, so I'm not seen by any receptionists who might recognize me as a colleague of yours or Claire's." "All right, I'll drop you off, then circle around to the main entrance to pick up my princess," Ethan said in a sickeningly sweet tone. Claire knew this was her chance. When Ethan dropped Jessica off at the usually quieter and darker side lobby, she would have to sneak out the back door on the opposite side as Jessica was getting out. "Get ready, Jess. We're here," Ethan said as he slowed the car, entering the dim side drop-off area. Claire grabbed the handle of the left car door. She waited for the car's engine to come to a complete stop. Her hands were damp with sweat, clutching the spare key she had used to manually open the door without setting off the loud central alarm. 1, 2. The car stopped. Jessica opened the front door and got out. "See you at the party later." "Her funeral party, darling," Jessica whispered, before closing the door. Simultaneously, Claire pulled the back door lever very slowly, crawling out from under the pile of jackets. Just as Ethan was watching Jessica walk into the building through his right side mirror, she slipped out onto the cold asphalt. Claire closed the door very gently, just until the first click. Then she immediately rolled and hid behind a large concrete pillar in the parking area. She gasped for breath, her heart drumming wildly. From behind the pillar, she watched the black SUV slowly move towards the main lobby. Claire stood up and brushed off her now wrinkled and dirty crimson dress. Her tears had already dried, replaced by a sharp, cold glint in her eyes. She took out her phone to check the time. She had about 15 minutes before Ethan would realize his wife wasn't showing up at the restaurant. "The game has just begun, Ethan," Claire murmured. She wasn't going to run to the police station first. She was going to do something far more devastating to the man who so worshipped fame and fortune. Claire stood ramrod straight behind the cold concrete pillar, her chest heaving as she caught her breath. In the distance, The taillights of her husband's black SUV disappeared around the corner toward the main lobby. She could run right now, call for a security guard, or dial 911. But the rage simmering in her veins demanded more than mere protection. She wanted absolute justice. She rummaged in her purse and checked her phone. The audio recording was safe. The photos of the asset transfer documents were saved to the cloud, and the vial of sedative was in her hand. Claire stared at the skyscraper before her with a gaze that could freeze fire. Ethan wanted to pick her up at the restaurant for one last dinner. Fine. He would be served a feast he would never forget. Claire immediately dialed a number. Not the police, but her cousin Daniel, a former private investigator who now worked for a powerful law firm. Daniel, I need your help right now. Don't ask why, but I need you to track the location of my car that Ethan took this morning. The license plate is NY34 A1204, and send someone to follow me at a safe distance. I'm at the side lobby of the Grand Dynasty Hotel right now, Claire whispered quickly. Claire, what's wrong with your voice? Are you in danger? Daniel's concerned voice came over the phone. I'll send you a recording. Listen to it, Daniel. If I don't contact you again in 2 hours, take that recording to the police and make sure Ethan and his assistant Jessica rot in jail. But for now, let me play this game a little longer. After hanging up, Claire walked out of the darkness of the parking garage. She went to a public restroom near the side lobby to wash her face and fix her ruined makeup. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back was no longer a weak, naive wife. Her eyes were sharp, her jaw set. She draped a scarf around her neck to cover the dirt stains on her dress. With a confident stride, Claire headed for the main lobby. Sure enough, she saw Ethan's SUV parked in the drop-off area. Ethan was standing there, looking at his watch, looking anxious. When their eyes met, Ethan immediately changed his expression to the warm smile Claire had once so admired. Claire, honey, where have you been? I was just about to call you. I thought you hadn't arrived yet, Ethan said as he approached, as if to hug her. Claire felt a wave of nausea as Ethan's arms wrapped around her shoulders, but she forced herself not to pull away. She responded to his smile with an equally false affection. Sorry, honey. The taxi I was in got stuck in some traffic, so I just got out a block away and walked to be quicker. I just stopped by the restroom to freshen up. Oh, I see. You look beautiful tonight. Our anniversary has to be perfect, Ethan complimented. He opened the front passenger door for Claire. Get in. The restaurant is waiting. Claire got into the passenger seat, the very same seat Jessica had occupied just minutes before. She could still smell the lingering scent of her friend's black opium perfume. Ethan got into the driver's seat, completely oblivious to the fact that his wife had just emerged from the back seat of the same car. Ethan, Claire called out as her husband was about to start the car. Yes, honey. Do you really love me? Claire asked, staring straight ahead. Ethan was taken aback for a moment, but then he chuckled lightly and took Claire's hand. Of course. Why would you ask that? You're my life, Claire. I would be nothing without you. Right. You'd be nothing without my father's fortune, Claire thought bitterly. I just wanted to be sure. Tonight feels a little different somehow. The car headed towards the dedicated parking area for the restaurant upstairs. Throughout the ride, Ethan tried to lighten the mood by talking about their future plans, the new house he wanted to buy, the vacation he had promised. Claire listened with a churning stomach. Every word from Ethan's mouth was another nail in the coffin of his betrayal. When they arrived at the lavish, high-end restaurant, the atmosphere was incredibly romantic. Their table was in a corner with a view of the New York City skyline. Small candles were lit, and a violinist was playing their favorite song. I have something for you, Ethan said after they had ordered their food. He took an elegant-looking leather folder from his briefcase, the same briefcase she had rummaged through earlier. This is a permanent education insurance plan for our future family. I was hoping we could sign it together tonight as a symbol of our commitment to the future. Claire took the folder. Under the dim candlelight, she looked at the papers. The top page was clearly about insurance, but Claire knew that somewhere in the middle or at the end lay the asset transfer document that would trap her. Sign here, darling, Ethan said, handing her an expensive pen and pointing to a blank space. His eyes were shining with anticipation for the wealth that would soon be his. Claire took the pen. The nib touched the paper. She saw Ethan seemingly holding his breath. "You know, Ethan, I have a surprise for you too," Claire said suddenly, pulling the pen back before the ink could touch the paper. "A surprise? What is it?" Ethan's voice was laced with impatience, but he tried to maintain his composure. Claire took out her phone and placed it on the table, right next to the candle. "I recorded a very interesting new song. You have to hear it. It's about a man who plans an accident for his wife at mile marker 26 of the Long Island Expressway." Ethan's face instantly went pale. His complexion turned from a healthy color to ashen in a matter of seconds. His hand, holding his wine glass, trembled violently. "Claire, what are you talking about? What are you saying?" Ethan's voice was choked. "Just listen, honey. You said I was naive, right?" Claire pressed the play button. Ethan's own voice echoed from the phone's speaker. "Mile marker 26 on the Long Island Expressway. It'll all look like a normal chain reaction accident caused by brake failure." The romantic atmosphere of the restaurant was shattered in an instant. The violin music continued in the background, but to Ethan, the sound coming from the phone was like a death knell. Across the table, Claire was looking at him with the coldest smile in the world. Meanwhile, under the table, Claire's hand was already typing a message to Daniel. "Now, get him." A suffocating silence descended between them, splitting the once warm ambiance of the restaurant. Ethan's voice, flowing from the phone recording, continued to fill the small space of their corner table. Ethan was frozen. His hand, which had been holding a wine glass, was now suspended in mid-air. He stared at Claire's phone, as if it were a time bomb that would detonate his entire life. "Claire is just a clueless keeper of the keys." The recorded voice of Ethan sounded so arrogant, nothing like the man who was now sweating profusely in front of her. Claire folded her arms on the table and watched her husband with a deadly calm. "Your voice sounds so good on this recording, Ethan. Clearer than I thought. I guess the acoustics in the back of your car are pretty good for recording a betrayal." Ethan swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, and his eyes started to dart nervously around the restaurant, as if looking for Jessica or an exit. "Claire, this isn't what it sounds like. It was just a joke. Jessica and we were just betting on a movie script. Yes, a movie script for a new ad campaign." Claire let out a low laugh, a dry laugh, devoid of any humor. "A movie script about planning your wife's death to take over Sterling Vance Holdings? About sabotaging my car and hiring a truck driver at mile marker 26 on the LIE? Do you think I'm that stupid, Ethan?" Ethan's face went from pale to beet red. The perfect husband mask he had worn for 5 years had completely shattered, revealing the face of a cornered predator. "Give me that phone, Claire." His voice was now a low, threatening whisper. "Or what? Are you going to kill me here? In front of all these wealthy, respectable people? You value your reputation so much, Ethan. If you touch a single inch of me, your career is over tonight." Ethan suddenly lunged forward. His hand shot out like lightning to snatch the phone from the table. But Claire had anticipated it. She pulled the phone back first and tucked it into the small purse she was hugging. "Give me the phone, Claire. Don't make me use force," Ethan shouted, causing a few diners at a nearby table to turn and look with curiosity. "You already have, Ethan. You killed me mentally the moment you and Jessica planned this conspiracy." Claire stood up from her chair. "And don't bother looking for Jessica. She's probably waiting in the restroom or at the staff entrance. But I've already sent a message to the building's security team that a woman is trying to disrupt an event here." Ethan gasped. His eyes widened. How long have you known?" "Since this afternoon when I got into the back of your car. I was trying to give you an anniversary surprise, Ethan. But it turns out I got the best surprise of my life." Claire picked up the fake insurance folder Ethan had given her and tore it in two in front of his face. "I've photographed all the real documents from your briefcase. I have proof of the wire transfer to that truck driver. I have everything." Suddenly, Ethan's phone vibrated on the table. It was a call from Jessica. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then answered with a trembling hand. "Ethan, what's going on? Why are security guards looking for me?" Jessica's panicked voice came through the phone, loud enough for Claire to hear. Claire snatched Ethan's phone and brought it to her lips. "Hello, Jessica. It's Claire. Thanks for congratulating me on our anniversary. I really appreciate the wonderful collaboration you had with my husband. I'm sure the police will be very interested in your story about the accident at mile marker 26 on the LIE. Claire hung up and tossed Ethan's phone into a full glass of red wine. Plop! The red liquid splashed onto Ethan's expensive white shirt, leaving a stain that looked like blood. "What do you want?" Ethan asked in a hoarse voice. He looked devastated, but Claire knew this man still had sharp claws. "I don't want anything from you anymore, Ethan, because from this moment on, you have nothing." Claire picked up her purse. "All the accounts in my father's name that you were managing were frozen by emergency order through my family lawyer 10 minutes ago. You can't pay that truck driver. You can't afford a lawyer. You probably can't even pay for this dinner." Ethan stood up and tried to grab Claire's arm, but suddenly, two well-built men in dark suits appeared behind Claire. The men Daniel had sent. "Is there a problem, Mrs. Sterling?" one of the men asked in a firm tone, his gaze fixed on Ethan. Claire smiled faintly. "No. This man has just realized that he's lost everything. Please ensure he stays here until the authorities arrive to pick him up on charges of attempted murder and asset embezzlement." Claire turned her back and walked out of the restaurant. The sound of her heels echoed decisively on the marble floor. She didn't look back, not even when she heard Ethan's desperate voice calling her name. When she reached the lobby, the cool New York night air brushed against her face. Claire took a deep breath, as much as she could. It felt like she had just surfaced after being underwater for years, but she knew she wasn't done yet. There was one more place she needed to go before the night was over, the very place where the accident was supposed to happen. She had to make sure there were no other victims of Ethan and Jessica's madness. Claire got into the car Daniel had arranged. "Take me to mile marker 26 on the Long Island Expressway," she commanded the driver. "There's one last performance we need to stop." The silver sedan Daniel sent cut through the darkness of the Long Island Expressway. In the back seat, Claire sat with her back ramrod straight. Her eyes stared blankly at the passing streetlights, like embers of a memory of Ethan that had now completely burned out. Next to her lay a tablet, displaying a moving GPS dot, the location of her original car, now being driven by a proxy driver under Ethan's orders, heading towards the execution point. "How far to mile marker 26? Claire asked. Her voice sounded foreign even to herself, cold and emotionless. "About 10 minutes, Mrs. Sterling." "Mr. Daniels' team is positioned 2 miles behind the target vehicle," the burly driver replied calmly. Claire opened her phone. There were dozens of missed calls from Jessica and unknown numbers, presumably from Ethan's panicked colleagues. She ignored them all. Her focus was now on one place, the construction site where her death had been scheduled. They passed mile marker 24. Claire could see the faded road sign under the mercury vapor lamps. The road began to empty out. Heavy cargo trucks lumbered along in the left lane, their engines a heavy, threatening drone. Claire imagined that in one of those trucks sat someone who had been paid to smash into her. "There it is," the driver whispered, pointing ahead. In the distance, Claire could see her personal car, a blue Mini Cooper she adored, driving at a steady speed in the middle lane. Inside was not Claire, but one of Daniel's operatives, fully equipped with a helmet and protective gear. Ethan didn't know the bait had been switched. Suddenly, from a dark service road, an old, unladen container truck slid onto the expressway. The truck didn't have its headlights on, only dim clearance lights. Its movements were aggressive, immediately crossing 2 lanes to position itself behind Claire's blue car. "He's making his move," Claire whispered. Her heart pounded. There was an indescribable eeriness to watching her own murder plot unfold before her eyes. The truck began to tailgate Claire's blue car. Ahead, the lanes narrowed into a construction zone. Concrete barriers lined the right side, creating a deadly bottleneck. If the car were pinned between the truck and the concrete, there would be no room for survival. "Ma'am, we need to pressure them now," Claire's driver said, hitting the accelerator. The car they were in shot forward, overtaking on the left, and then flashed its high beams multiple times at the truck's cabin. A long honk broke the silence of the highway night. Claire could see the truck driver's surprise. He seemed to hesitate, turning his head towards Claire's car, which was now driving parallel to his cabin. Claire rolled down her window. The strong wind whipped at her face, but she didn't care. She wanted the driver to see her. She wanted the hired man to know that his target was staring right at him. "Stop!" Claire yelled. Her voice was lost in the wind, but she held up her lit phone, showing a screen with the faces of the man's wife and daughter, photos Daniel had quickly pulled. The truck driver was a haggard-looking middle-aged man. He looked like he was in a state of panic. He realized something was wrong. This neat accident plan had been leaked. He tried to hit the brakes, but because the truck had either been sabotaged or was meant to be faulty, there was a horrible grinding sound of metal on metal. The truck began to fishtail. "Watch out!" Claire's driver yelled, wrenching the wheel to the left as the truck's tail swung wildly. The blue car ahead managed to brake hard and swerve onto the shoulder just before the truck slammed into the concrete barriers at mile marker 26. A loud crash echoed through the night. Dust and sparks from the construction site flew into the air as the front of the truck hit the concrete at high speed. The world seemed to move in slow motion. Claire watched as the truck came to a stop sideways, blocking almost all lanes of the highway. "Pull over up ahead," Claire commanded. As soon as the car stopped, Claire got out. She ignored her driver's warning shouts and ran towards the smoking truck. She saw the truck driver crawling out of the mangled cabin. His leg was bloody, but he was still alive. Claire stood before the man, her shadow stretching long under the flashing construction lights. The man looked up at Claire with immense terror, as if he had seen a ghost. "Who paid you?" Claire asked, quietly but sharply. I don't know. It was just over the phone," the man groaned, trying to back away. "Ethan Sterling." Claire spat the name like a curse. "He's not going to pay you the rest of the money. He's on his way to a police station right now, and you're going to follow him." Claire took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of burning tires and road dust. At this very spot, mile marker 26, which was supposed to be her final resting place, Claire felt truly reborn. Suddenly, the truck driver's phone, which had fallen on the asphalt, vibrated. A message had arrived. Claire picked it up. It was from an unknown number, but the content made Claire's blood boil again. "Why no report yet? Make sure that woman doesn't get out of the car alive. Double the bonus if you make sure the car catches fire." Claire looked at the truck driver with disgust, then glanced back at the dark road behind them. She knew that message wasn't from Ethan. Ethan was being held by Daniel's people. The message must have been from Jessica. That woman was trying to finish the dirty work now that Ethan was trapped. "Mrs. Sterling, the police are on their way. Mr. Daniel reports that Ethan tried to flee the restaurant and was apprehended by civilians after causing a minor collision," her driver reported as he approached. Claire nodded slightly. "Good, but this game isn't completely over. Jessica is still out there trying to clean up the mess." She turned her head towards her blue car, which was unscathed. "Let's go back to the city. There's one more traitor I need to pick up myself." Claire got back in the car. This time, she wasn't hiding. She sat in the front seat, ready to face the final chapter of this night that had changed her life. The asphalt at mile marker 26 was still smoking faintly from the tire friction and concrete impact. Claire stood in the middle of the night's silence, which had just been shattered by the sound of death. She stared at the truck driver's phone in her hand, still lit up, displaying Jessica's evil message. A cunning plan suddenly formed in Claire's mind. If Jessica wanted her dead, Claire would give her what she wanted, at least for the next few hours. "Mrs. Sterling, the ambulance and police will arrive in 5 minutes," the burly driver reported, turning off the car's engine so as not to be too conspicuous. "No," Claire cut him off sharply, her eyes glinting. "Call Daniel. Tell him to instruct the operative who was driving my blue car to leave the scene immediately. Just leave the car there, next to the wrecked truck. All lights off. But Mom, just do it. And one more thing. Ask Daniel to spread the news through his networks. A fatal accident at mile marker 26. A blue Mini Cooper, badly burned. Victim unidentifiable." Claire wanted to see how brave Jessica would be when she thought her goal had been achieved. She wanted to see what mask of grief her friend would wear in public. 10 minutes later, the scene at the construction site was set. Daniel's team, skilled in information manipulation, moved quickly. They even sprinkled a bit of gasoline around the crash area to create a strong smell of fire, without actually igniting the car. Claire herself was now hidden inside the silver sedan, parked far away in the darkness of the construction site, protected by a pile of giant concrete pipes. From a distance, she saw a white sedan approaching slowly. It wasn't a police car. The car stopped about 50 yards from the truck scene. A woman got out hastily. Even from a distance, Claire could recognize the figure. It was Jessica. Jessica didn't get too close. She stood behind the shade of a large tree on the highway shoulder, watching the few construction workers who had started to gather around the accident. Claire used a small pair of binoculars from the car's glove compartment to see her friend's face. There were no tears, no horrified expression, only a faint smile slowly spreading across Jessica's lips. The woman took out her phone, seemed to take a picture from a distance, then quickly got back in her car and drove away, going the wrong way down the emergency lane, a reckless act that showed her desperation to get away from there quickly. "I saw her," Claire whispered. "She thinks I'm ashes." "Where to now, ma'am?" "To Jessica's secret apartment. I know she has a place in Chelsea that even Ethan doesn't know about. She used to tell me about it. Her stress relief place. Now, it will be the place where her world comes crashing down." On the way back to the city, Claire opened social media. Sure enough, news about the accident at mile marker 26 was starting to spread on New York info accounts. Daniel had done his job very well. Claire then opened the company's group chat, which had been quiet at this time of night. Suddenly, a message from Jessica popped up in the group. "Everyone, please pray for Claire. I just heard about a terrible accident on the highway. I'm trying to reach Ethan, but he's not picking up. I'm shaking so much right now." Claire almost threw her phone away in disgust. Shaking? Shaking with joy, more like, Claire muttered. The car arrived in front of a luxury apartment building in Chelsea. Because they had once been so close that they shared access codes, Claire was able to get into the lobby without suspicion thanks to the access Jessica had given her long ago. She wore a hooded jacket and a mask, walking with her head down past the front desk. Claire waited in the darkness of the 12th floor hallway, right next to the door of Unit 1205. Soon enough, she heard the ding of the elevator. Jessica came out with a cheerful spring in her step. She even seemed to be humming a little tune. She rummaged through her purse for her keycard. Click, the door opened. Just as Jessica stepped inside and was about to turn on the lights, a strong hand from behind pushed her, sending her sprawling onto the dark living room floor. "What? Who's there?" Jessica screamed in panic. Claire stepped inside and quietly closed the door. She didn't turn on the main lights, only a small decorative lamp in the corner of the room, casting a faint yellow glow. Claire slowly took off her mask. Jessica turned around. Her eyes widened, and her face instantly turned whiter than the wall behind her. She tried to crawl backward, gasping for air as if she had just seen a demon back from the dead. "Claire, no way. You're dead. I saw your car wrecked," Jessica screamed hysterically. Claire approached. Each click of her heels on the marble floor sounded like a death sentence. She crouched down in front of the trembling Jessica. "Disappointed, Jessica?" "Sorry to ruin your celebration," Claire said in a very soft but deadly tone. "The car was wrecked, but unfortunately for you, I wasn't in it. I was behind you. In the back seat of Ethan's car, listening to every ugly plan you whispered in his ear." Jessica shook her head frantically. "No. Ethan said you didn't know anything. You're stupid. Claire, you were supposed to die." Claire slapped Jessica hard across the face, silencing her instantly. "That's for your betrayal as a friend. And this," she slapped her again, "is for every single penny of my father's money you tried to steal." Claire took out a tablet and played the audio recording from that afternoon in the car. Jessica's own voice, laughing and mocking Claire, filled the luxurious space. "That recording is already in the hands of the police, Jessica. And bad news, Ethan has already been caught. He's so scared that he's started to blame everything on you. He's saying you planned the murder because you were the contact for the truck driver." "That's a lie. It was his plan," Jessica yelled defensively. "I know you're both equally rotten." Claire stood up straight. "But the difference is, Ethan is in a cell right now. You, on the other hand, were getting ready to pack your passport and cash and run, weren't you?" Claire pointed to Jessica's open briefcase on the floor. "You're not going anywhere, Jessica. The police are waiting for you outside this door. But before they take you, know one thing. I've taken everything back." This apartment, the stocks you manipulated, it all came back to my name an hour ago. Claire walked to the door, leaving Jessica sobbing hysterically on the floor. Before leaving, Claire turned back slightly. Sleep well, Jessica. I hope you like your new uniform. After that long night, a gray dawn broke over the New York sky. Claire stood looking out the large glass window on the 25th floor of the Sterling Vance Holdings headquarters. She hadn't slept a wink. Her eyes looked tired, but a fire burned within them, a determination she had never felt before. On her large desk were neatly arranged legal documents, recorded evidence, and an asset freeze letter signed by the financial authorities. Claire, all the board members have gathered in the main conference room. Daniel's voice broke the silence. Ethan is still at the police station. He keeps trying to contact a lawyer, but no one wants to touch the case now that they know the evidence includes attempted murder. Claire nodded slightly. And Jessica? She's being interrogated, as expected. And she started to sing. She's spilling all the details about how Ethan has been manipulating the company's financial reports for the past 3 years to siphon funds to overseas accounts. She's hoping to get a lighter sentence with that information, but the police have evidence of her contact with the perpetrator at mile marker 26. There's no way out for her. Claire straightened her blazer. Let's finish this. The moment Claire entered the conference room, an immediate silence fell. The board members and shareholders, most of whom were old friends of her late father, looked at her with a mixture of pity and admiration. They had all heard the news of the accident that had befallen Claire, but seeing her standing there so straight, healthy, and authoritative was an unexpected shock. Claire took the seat at the head of the table, the very seat that Ethan had occupied so arrogantly. "Thank you for coming," Claire's voice rang out, calm but firm. "I know you all know Ethan as a capable leader, but this morning, I am here to show you another side of his leadership." Claire signaled for Daniel to turn on the projector. The large screen at the front displayed a complex flow of funds. For 3 years, Ethan has systematically embezzled funds. He created shell companies and manipulated the value of the company's stock. The culmination was when he attempted to forge my signature on right of transfer documents to seize my father's entire inheritance. A few board members whispered in shock. Claire then played the most damning part of the audio recording, the moment where Ethan and Jessica laughed about the foolishness of the board they could so easily deceive. "This is not just a personal matter between me and my husband," Claire continued. "This is an attack on the integrity of the company my father built with his sweat and tears. Ethan and Jessica betrayed not just me, but all of you." Claire then presented a new document. "I have used my veto power as the majority shareholder. As of 8 a.m. this morning, Ethan has been officially removed from his position as CEO. All of his shares in this company are forfeited under the integrity clause of the prenuptial agreement he signed when we got married, a clause he thought he would never have to worry about." This was the twist Ethan hadn't realized. Claire's father, a wise old businessman, had prepared a rock-solid prenuptial agreement. It stipulated that in the event of betrayal or any criminal act causing harm to a spouse, ownership of all assets acquired during the marriage would revert to the injured party. Ethan, thinking Claire loved him too much to ever sue, had been too arrogant to read the fine print. Suddenly, the conference room door opened. A pale-faced, middle-aged man entered. It was Ethan's personal lawyer. "Mr. Hansen, Mrs. Sterling, my client wishes to speak with you. He is begging you to drop the police charges. He promises to return everything and disappear from your life forever," Mr. Hansen said in a trembling voice. Claire looked at the lawyer with empty eyes. "Tell Ethan he has nothing left to offer. His promises are as worthless as the fake insurance papers he gave me last night. And tell him this too. I will not only send him to prison for attempted murder, but I will make sure he can never work in any industry again for the rest of his life." But Mrs. Sterling, he is truly distraught. "He's distraught because he got caught, not because he's sorry," Claire cut him off sharply. "If his plan had succeeded, I would be a body in a morgue this morning, and he would be toasting with Jessica over my father's fortune. Get out of here, Mr. Hansen, before I press charges against you for being an accomplice in concealing fraudulent documents." After the lawyer left, Claire turned back to the board. "I will be taking over as interim CEO until we can find a suitable replacement. We will conduct a full audit. I want this company clean by sunset today." The meeting ended with awkward applause from the board members, who were beginning to realize that Claire was no longer a sleeping princess they could ignore. When the room was empty, Claire sank weakly into her chair. The victory was bittersweet. She had won financially, she had won legally, but her heart still felt like it had a hole in it. She saw the wedding photo of her and Ethan still sitting on a corner of the office desk. With a trembling hand, she picked it up. Ethan was smiling so genuinely in it. Claire wondered at what point that smile had turned into a death mask. She then turned the photo frame over and smashed it on the floor. "Claire," Daniel approached slowly. "Are you okay?" Claire took a deep breath and wiped away what was probably the last tear she would ever shed for Ethan. "I'm more than okay, Daniel. I'm free." She picked up her bag and walked out of the room that had once been filled with lies. There was still one final chapter she needed to close. She wanted to see Ethan one last time, not as a grieving wife, but as the judge of his ruined life. The tile floor of the police station was cold and smelled sharply of disinfectant. Claire walked down the dim corridor, the sound of a guard's key ring echoing off the concrete walls. Each of her steps was light, yet carried weight. She was no longer wearing the crimson dress filled with bitter memories. Now she wore a sharp black blazer suit, a symbol of her newfound power and independence. "5 minutes, Miss Sterling," the officer said in a respectful tone. He opened a steel door to a small visitation room, separated by thick glass and a small voice grate. Claire sat on a hard plastic chair. Through the glass, a man in handcuffs was brought in. This was no longer the elegant Ethan with his custom suits and neatly coiffed hair. The man before her wore a conspicuous orange inmate vest. His face was gaunt, a thin stubble growing wild on his chin, and his eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. As soon as he saw Claire, Ethan immediately pressed his hands against the glass. "Claire, honey, please help me. You know this is all a misunderstanding, right? Jessica planned everything. She blackmailed me. She said she'd ruin my career if I didn't do what she said." Claire just looked at him with a flat gaze. There was no rage, no explosive hatred. All that was left was emptiness, like looking at a bug squashed under her shoe. "Stop acting, Ethan. I heard everything from the back of your car. Remember?" Claire's voice came through the intercom, crystal clear. "I heard your voice laughing as you called me naive. I heard the way you detailed the accident at mile marker 26. You can't blame this on Jessica. You were the director." Ethan fell silent, his shoulders slumping. The mask of panic slowly peeled away, revealing the cold, cunning, true nature he had hidden for so long. He pulled his hands from the glass and leaned back in his chair. He let out a small laugh that sounded utterly chilling. "So, you won, huh?" Ethan whispered. "My sweet little wife turned out to have sharp claws. You must be so proud of yourself now, sitting in the CEO's chair while your husband rots in here." "I'm not proud, Ethan. I'm just disappointed," Claire replied calmly. "Disappointed that I loved the shadow of a man who never actually existed. The man I loved was a protector, not a predator who would trade his wife's life for a pile of stocks." "Love is bullshit," Ethan yelled, slamming his hand on the table, the sound echoing. "This world is about power, Claire. Your father worked me like a dog for years. I ran the company, I did the sweating, but you got all the credit because of your last name. I deserved all that wealth." "You deserve to be punished," Claire cut him off. "I didn't come here to listen to your complaints. I came to give you this." Claire pressed a document against the glass. It was the divorce papers, which she had already signed, attached with a court decision on the forfeiture of all of Ethan's assets due to criminal acts. "I've erased your name from every aspect of my life. You have nothing now. No house, no savings, not even a single friend to vouch for you. Jessica has already given her full testimony to save herself and reduce her sentence. You'll be spending at least 20 years in here, Ethan, and by the time you get out, the world will have already forgotten you." Ethan stared at the documents with wide eyes. Reality began to crash down on him. "Claire, please don't do this. I'm sorry. We can start over. I can start over." Claire stood up. "Today is our 5th wedding anniversary, Ethan. And this is my final gift to you. The truth. You thought I was naive, but I'm the one left standing while you fall. Claire turned her back. She didn't want to hear the man's sobs anymore. She walked out of the visitation room, ignoring Ethan's screams of her name in desperation. The sound of the steel door closing behind her was like the final period at the end of a long, dark book. Outside the police station, the sky was clear. Claire stood on the sidewalk and breathed in the fresh morning air. She took out her phone and looked at her profile picture, now changed to a wide ocean landscape. A symbol of her freedom. Daniel was already waiting for her in the car. Is it over? Yes. Everything is truly over, Claire replied. She got into the car, but before they left, Claire asked Daniel to stop for a moment in front of a city park. She got out, walked to a bench, and opened her purse. She took out the small velvet box containing the expensive watch she had originally prepared as an anniversary gift for Ethan. Claire looked at the watch for a moment, then gave it to an elderly man who was cleaning the paths in the park. "This is for you, sir. Wear it or sell it for your family," Claire said gently. The old man looked at the expensive watch with trembling hands, at a loss for words. This is too valuable, ma'am." "Not anymore," Claire replied with a genuine smile. The first one she had felt since yesterday afternoon. "The time for my past is over. It's a new time now." Claire returned to the car and looked ahead. Her life would probably never be the same again, and the wound would likely leave a scar, but she knew she was much stronger than she had ever imagined. As the car left the police station precinct, Claire didn't look back. She was ready to write a new chapter of her life, as the protagonist in complete control of her own destiny.